Who's recognized?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yesterday, we heard moving and deeply troubling testimony from witnesses who had been victims of sexual assault. The actions described in detail by the witnesses, which occurred during the course of their employment, it was really sickening. And in my opinion, each of the attackers ought to be in jail right now. I think, as is, the underlying legislation is well-intentioned, but it could be improved, in my opinion, by addressing issues raised by the witnesses, by Mr. Issa, and by others on this committee. I hope that before this bill gets to the floor for consideration, we will address the concerns that they raised. Shifting topics, Mr. Chairman, this has already been raised by a number of my colleagues on this side. Last month, Merrick Garland, the Attorney General of the United States, sat in front of this committee and testified about circulating his now infamous memo, which instructed the DOJ and the FBI to work with local law enforcement to target concerned parents at school board meetings. The memo was issued only 5 days after the National School Board Association urged the Biden administration to target parents using the tools provided under the Patriot Act. At that hearing, I provided an example of a specific incident that was cited by the National School Board Association, which they apparently believed rose to the level of domestic terrorism. And then specifically asked the Attorney General if that was the type of act that he contemplated investigating as domestic terrorism. Now, his response was that he, quote, can't imagine any circumstance in which the Patriot Act would be used in the circumstances of parents complaining about their children, nor could he imagine any circumstance where they would be labeled as domestic terrorists. Now, that's what he said. Well, Mr. Chairman, Republicans on this committee have sent letter after letter to the Department of Justice, to the National School Board Association, and to you in an attempt to get to the bottom of this. Turns out the Attorney General wasn't entirely forthcoming in his answer to my question. In fact, we now know, thanks to the efforts of a whistleblower, that the day before his appearance in front of this committee, the FBI had circulated a memo directing agents to monitor parents at school board meetings and to flag all potential, in their view, criminal threats, harassment, and intimidation of educators with an edu-officials threat tag. This is clear and compelling evidence that the use of counterterrorism measures against parents had, in fact, been authorized before the Attorney General's sworn testimony. In light of this troubling new information, Mr. Chairman, I urge you to call the Attorney General back before this committee to testify about the FBI's threat tag directive and his statement before this committee, which now appears to have been less than fully accurate. I yield back.